Imagine going on national radio to defend one of the biggest political talking points of the year, only to be asked one simple question that you can't answer. That's exactly what happened when former Trump transition consultant Jan Halper Hayes appeared on LBC to defend J.D. Vance's claim that free speech is under threat in the United Kingdom. She sounded confident. She insisted Britain had a serious censorship problem. But the moment the presenter asked for one clear example to support that claim, the entire interview took an unexpected turn. Watch this exchange all the way through, and then stick around, because at the end, I'll break down what stood out to me, whether the arguments held up, and why this debate matters beyond the headlines. Let's get into it.
Good morning. It's funny that you think that he's taking a dig. Do you not think that when an 82-year-old man is arrested for posting something on Facebook, that is not a form of censorship?
Well, it depends what he posts, doesn't it? Depends if it's legal.
Well,
what did that 82-year-old man post?
Well, let's back up a minute here. If we are starting to scrutinize everything that someone says, if we're arresting them because it is hate speech.
What is you mentioned a specific case there. What is it this 82-year-old was arrested for?
Honestly, I can't remember, but what I do remember...
You're telling me that it's outrageous that an 82-year-old man was...
Back up a minute.
No, sorry, this is important because you just said this is an example of free speech under threat in the UK, but you can't tell me what he was arrested for.
I don't remember the
So why you bring it up then?
I brought it up as an example that if we are scrutinizing what an 82-year-old man posts on Facebook...
But you can't assess that without knowing what he said, can you?
Well, you know what? Let's just say I brought up a wrong example because I don't have the context
Could it possibly be now because it's all a load of nonsense and free speech isn't under threat in the UK at all, which I think you've just demonstrated respectfully?
You know what? I've been there I've lived in the UK for 24 years. And yes, I do believe that censorship, it started with political correctness.
Right.
And as political correctness moved from accusing people of microaggressions and then people getting triggered over what somebody said, it has been a form of putting a speech straitjacket on people.
So what can't you say in the UK right now without being arrested that you think people should have the right to say?
You know what? That's a very good question.
It is. Thank you.
It is. I can't answer that question, and I can't give you an example exactly. But see,
so
what I
find
interesting.
Sorry, Jane. You've given me an example of free speech being under threat. You can't tell me what the person said.
Well,
I've asked you for one single thing that you can't say in the UK without the fear of being arrested, and you can't think of anything. It's because Britain still is a country, compared to the United States, by the way, where free speech absolutely exists and always will.
Well, we both see it differently then.
But you can't give me any single point of evidence whatsoever to back up your idea.
Why don't you give me an example of how free speech still exists and censorship is not there?
Because you don't get arrested by the police for saying anything that isn't incitement or hate speech in this country. People are free to express their opinions. People are free to give their views. We do not have a police state in this country, unlike, I might say, the way that the United States is going under Donald Trump.
Well, you know, that's interesting because it's not going that way with Donald Trump. It was going that way, and it's now reversing itself.
Right. So banning journalists from the White House because you don't like what they've written, demanding the impeachment of judges because you don't like what they've ruled, sacking government officials because they've dared to criticise you at any point in recent years, defunding universities because they're not doing what you do, threatening law firms if they don't toe the party line, defunding media organisations that you think are against you, arresting students because of what they've written on social media, and ramping up checks of people entering the UK to check they haven't posted anything on Facebook that you don't like, doesn't amount to any sort of attack on free speech.
That's really twisting things without the specific examples. You're giving...
They're facts.
No, You're giving examples the same way I gave the
But
example
you
of
didn't
the
give any
82-year-old
examples, and I've just given you
man.
10.
No, you've just given me a very biased perspective.
Bias is facts. All of those things have happened. Which of those haven't happened? Have journalists been banned from the White House under the Trump administration?
Have journalists been banned, or have they brought in alternative media that presents a different
I'm not talking about
angle?
Have journalists from organisations like the Associated Press been banned by the White House? Yes or no?
Yes, they have.
Right. Have judges been threatened with
But wait a
impeachment
minute.
because the White House doesn't like their rulings?
Wait
Yes
a
or
minute.
no?
Let's not do it that way. Let's go back to
Because the
that.
answer's
And
yes.
why were they? Why were they banned?
But so we accept. Right? Are we accepting that all the things I just suggested have happened?
If you don't let me finish, then we can't really have a conversation here, because you've got a very biased perspective
I'm not
here,
biased at
a
all.
very angle.
I'm giving you facts, and I'm just asking whether you recognise that those things are true.
You know what? It's so interesting. Did we not have a bunch of fake news here? And in the U.S., we did. And why? Why did we have fake news? Because it was biased and it was wrong. And so that is one of the reasons. You know, you're listing 10 things and cutting me off.
Right.
But then why was the Associated Press no longer welcome? Because they gave fake news that has been proven.
But Jen, you coming on the national radio station here on LBC and saying an 82-year-old man being arrested is an attack on free speech without having a clue what he's actually said is not fake news at all.
It's not that I haven't had a clue. I can't remember the specifics.
Right.
But the fact that
But how can you know it's an
police show up-
attack on free speech if you can't remember what he'd actually said?
Well, you know, it's very interesting because you started this off by saying J.D. Vance had a dig. And so we don't get to have an intelligent discussion about whether there really is censorship going on, if people are afraid to speak
But he has
out.
had a dig, and that's his own language. He said previously when he talked about the UK...
No, you called it a dig.
Well,
He made a statement. He made a statement. He made an observation.
His language previously, I need to beat up on the UK. So don't try and tell me that he's not having a dig when he himself has admitted that he, as he put it, needs to beat up on the UK.
So, after watching that exchange, here's what stood out to me. This interview wasn't really about who spoke the loudest or who had the final word. It came down to a much simpler question. If you're making a serious claim, can you support it with clear evidence? Jan Halper Hayes argued that free speech is under threat in the UK. That's a significant claim, and it's fair for an interviewer to ask for specific examples. Whether you agreed with the presenter or not, that question sat at the heart of the entire conversation. Now, that doesn't mean concerns about free speech should simply be dismissed. It's a debate that deserves to happen, and reasonable people can disagree about where the line should be drawn. But those discussions are always stronger when they're backed by facts and clear examples rather than broad assertions. For me, that's the biggest takeaway from this interview. In a healthy democracy, challenging ideas isn't the same as silencing them. Public figures should expect tough questions, and if an argument is persuasive, it should be able to stand up to scrutiny. But that's just my view. Now I want to hear yours. Did this interview expose weaknesses in the argument that free speech is under threat in the UK? Or do you think there are stronger examples that simply weren't raised here? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown and want more balanced political analysis and the biggest debates from the UK, the US, and beyond, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Signal Westminster, and turn on notifications so you never miss our next discussion. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.